In the last episode, I made two amazing coasters in my Dark Universe style themed land inside of Theme Park Tycoon 2. In today's episode, I'm going to continue with my Universal Park in my series that I'm calling Movie World. So let's begin with today's episode. Welcome back to another episode in my Universal style park. My name is Gameworld, and in today's episode, we're going to continue building this Dark Universe style themed land. So let's get into it by talking about what I did in the time lapse. With that, let me enter one of these two tunnels, which I built in the time lapse. That still needs to be detailed, and that's what's going to be done in today's episode. But I guess stay tuned to the very end to see what that looks like. So as we enter this hallway, the main thing that I was trying to achieve is to make it look like the coaster is traveling through some sort of haunted mansion style hallway, with different sequences that go on as you go through this hallway, which you have to come back and see during the ride POV when I released that video. Anyway, one of the things that was really missing in this ride was some sort of magical effect. I actually achieved this by creating this cool purple lightning ceiling that you see here, and I thought this actually turned out quite cool. Also, this series is supposed to resemble Dark Universe or Universal as a whole, but I'm not copying Universal one-to-one. The whole point of this series is to basically make a Universal park, but I'm basically only using like images and YouTube videos to be able to produce this park. So a lot of the things that you see in these videos are not exactly the same to the Universal Park, Epic Universe, or any other Universal Park that's out there. So now basically I think we should cover up the ugly boxes that are sticking out of the hole, out of the ground, where the coaster exits and enters the hallway. So this building, the whole point for this building is to make it look more like abandoned and maybe like a werewolf or something crashed through the building. And that's what I'm trying to achieve with this building. As you can see here, I'm kind of just giving the outline of the building. So let me go and finish this, and then we can start putting a lot of the details on this building. So I'll be right back. So I finished the outline to the building as well as added the roof. It's nothing too different to the rest of the stuff that I've been building in this area. So let's get into putting in the details for this building, like the wall trims and the windows and the doors and stuff. So let's get into that. So as you can see here, I'm starting with the exterior wall trims first. This is because it makes it easier to actually place the windows down, and you can kind of see where everything needs to go for the building itself. Originally, I wasn't planning on putting too much detail into this building. However, I decided to move the pathway so it wraps around this building instead. So I decided to actually add a balcony to this building. As you can see here, that is what I'm doing by adding the supports for the balcony. The next thing I decided to do for the balcony is to add the railings, and this was actually probably the easiest parts of this building. I mean, it's not the most interesting thing on this building. I think when I get into putting all the windows, doors, as well as making the wall look like it's been destroyed by some sort of monster, it will be so much interesting to build than what I'm doing here. So definitely stay tuned for that. I'm gonna quickly actually finish this. As you can see, I'm already done with the railings, and we can get into actually placing some of the windows and doors down. Although, I decided to actually change the colors to the railings before I got to the windows and doors. This is because the railings, I feel like if there was a dark gray metal texture, it will stand out a lot better. I also decided to add a little bit of detail on the top of the railing just to make it stand out a little bit more, because I feel like without it, it's kind of boring. Okay, with that completed, let's get into building the windows and doors. Since I wouldn't say boring, however, this building is definitely bland without it. So I decided to reuse a lot of the windows that I built in a previous episode of this Dark Universe area. If you want to see that, go check out the video down in the description. So for the windows, I decided to place one window on the second floor just as a point of reference to where all the windows are going to be going on this building. On the first floor, I decided to place a window on the right side here, and then on the left side, I was going to place a door. However, to do this, I actually had to delete a lot of the window parts since it's going to be the same shape as the window. With the door mostly complete, well, minus the handle. The handle is probably the most important part of the door, now that I think about it, since without the handle, you cannot enter the building. So I should build that first, and then we can get on with the rest of the building. As you can see, I completed the door. I also decided to add a second window on the second floor because only having one window was very strange. The other thing that I did was also added two doors so you can enter onto the balcony. Obviously, this is more decorational. You don't really see that from the pathway as much, but I decided to put it there because, you know, the more detailed, the better this building will look. Alright, anyway, now I should probably work on this hole that the coaster goes through and give it a little bit of more detail so it doesn't look that strange, because right now it looks very incomplete. So what I'm trying to achieve here is to make it look like some sort of monster broke through the building. Basically a werewolf, because the werewolf is the monster that is found in Dark Universe, and that's what I'm trying to represent this themed land off of in this coaster. So that's what I'm doing here, is to make the hole look like it's all torn apart and broken into. And I think it turned out quite nice, as you can see here. One of the things I have to keep in mind as I'm building this building is this building is actually at a very strange angle, so I have to make sure all the pieces fit properly, or else it will look very strange. I also realized that I actually have to change this coaster up a little bit just so I can fit the path here, or else I definitely cannot fit anything here because nobody can walk over the roller coaster. That would definitely be very deadly. So before I go and fix the coaster, I want to explain what I did with the hole in the wall that the coaster goes through. As you can see here, I made it look like something crashed through it or broke through it, like a werewolf. I also painted the inside a different color to give it more texture as well. Okay, huge change of plans. I decided to actually delete that coaster because it wasn't fitting well in this area. And I probably spent a good hour trying to make it work, but it wasn't working. So I decided to change it to this River Rapids ride instead, which fits a lot better here. With that, let me go into another time lapse. And I know this video is a huge time lapse video, kind of, but I think that's the best way to actually start detailing this ride, and as well as finishing this building. So let's get into it. So as I start with the time lapse and choose what rocks to use for this ride, I wanted to mention one of the hardest things that you can do in a building game or in miniature scale modeling, and what I enjoy doing, which is model railroading. So one of the hardest things that you can do is actually rebuilding something or restarting something that you already finished. I mean, screw this ride. The ride that I built here was probably the easiest thing to change. When you look at the Dark Universe area, this is something I've rebuilt. And you can actually see that if you go back to previous episodes, where you'll see glimpses of the old Dark Universe area. Compared to my model railroading channel, which is railroading things, it is a lot different, where I built this amazing mountain out of styrofoam, and many years later I decided to change it. I actually have to destroy all that work just to restart, and it's very hard to do. Now, it's similar to the video game park where I make these amazing themed lands, and I realize something's a little bit off and I want to change it. I have to destroy probably hours of work just to do it. Now, what I'm probably trying to get at here is don't be scared to change things. When you want to change something, go ahead and change it. It probably looks better in there when you do. For example, my model railroad looks a lot better. And if you're interested in what my model railroading looks like, go check out my channel. Link will be in the description because I'm planning on posting more videos on that channel later on. But anyway, there's a little bit of advice when it comes to building in building games. However, let's get back to what I'm doing here, which is actually building rocks on this ride. And as you can see, one of the things I had trouble with is the border and things being out of bounds. So I had to use primitives to make my own rocks here. But from here, I decided to just finish up where I'm at on this ride and get back to the building because there's a lot of stuff on the building that I left unfinished. So from here, I decided to continue adding the windows around the building as well as fill up the gaps in the hole to make it look like some sort of monster, again, the werewolf, breaking into the wall to making it look like the building's abandoned and something crashed into the building or broke into the building. So that's what I'm trying to achieve here. You can also tell that I'm making some of these windows look broken because, well, it looks weird if a monster or something broke into the building and these windows look brand new. So I decided to break some of these windows up to make it look broken and smashed. As you can see, I bent the frame a little bit and also made the the glass looked all cut and I cannot speak today apparently. I made the glass look all like destroyed and stuff, and I also deleted the wall in the back to make it so you can see inside as well. And I decided to add like this fire room and something like exploded and all that, and hopefully it'll look really cool in the end. Man, for some reason I really cannot talk today. As you can see here, what I'm trying to do is make this really cool room with fire on the inside to make it look like something exploded on the inside of the building. Alright, with that shambles of a time lapse, let's go into real time and I'm going to talk about what I did in this time lapse. So I mentioned in a time lapse that I was building a room that is burning. However, I decided to build this off screen. So as you can see, this room, you can see it from a couple of these windows, and I made sure you can see it from the pathway. And I also mentioned that I did build this off screen because there's not really much you can see inside anyway, since the coaster just zooms right by, so I didn't want to put too much detail into it. Now, if I can enter this room, if I really can enter this room, I'll show you what I did in this room. Okay, that took unreasonable amount of time to enter that room. And I probably also said room like 4 to 5 times in the span of 5 seconds. But anyway, let's go and talk about what I did in this room. Okay, I really should stop saying room every 5 seconds. So, for this interior, you can see that I did a lot of different things, from using the generic crates to be able to build this room. I didn't put too much detail in it, I just put some crates, some barrels, as well as I scattered some broken wooden pieces around, just to make it look like there's been stuff that's been destroyed in this building. So, the reason why I didn't put too much detail in this area, because you can only see the fire from the path and a little bit from the pathway, and also the coaster just zooms on by. I just wanted to put something here so it gives a little bit of interest to this building. Now, that's what this building looks like in the day. Let me turn it to night so you can see what this building looks like at night. Well, apparently that was in the right time. Let me try that again. So I guess I forgot the commands to be able to turn into night. It took me a little bit of time to figure that out, but I finally was able to figure it out. Anyway, well, as I fall into a hole, here's what my building looks like at night. With that, I am afraid that is all I have time for this episode. In the next episode, I am planning on building Frankenstein Castle. So, join me for that episode. So until then, I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.